Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
When the Office of Management and Budget decided to remove the specific section on enterprise risk management from Circular A123, Eric Ueland, the Deputy Director for Management, received some direct feedback.
Now, feedback among those who practice ERM has ranged from broad-based and serious disappointment, some anger, and a few responses summed up without expletives as, "Are you out of your bleeping mind?"
For more on why Ueland says the ERM community's unhappiness with the OMB decision is overblown, Federal News Network's executive editor Jason Miller joins me now with details. Jason, great to have you.
Thanks, Terry.
Tell us more about why Mr. Ueland believes concerns about removing enterprise risk management as a section from Circular 123 are overstated.
Terry, this goes back to almost 10 months ago. We got an early copy of the revision of A123, and I wrote a story about it and got tons of questions, and people were really like, okay, what's going on? What have you heard? Lots of questions. So when OMB released that final update just March 10th of A123, obviously folks were disappointed. Maybe a few were surprised as well that when they removed the entire section that highlighted enterprise risk management as a requirement, that came to fore. Now, speaking at the Association for Enterprise Risk Management Summit last week, Ueland addressed what he called the elephant in the room right away.
Enterprise risk management sitting in an OMB circular was, in the end, its very own risk. Why do I say that? Reducing risk management to a management directive became the gateway to a simple federal government compliance exercise, rather than an actual federal government doing exercise. Enterprise risk management was always part of federal leadership and execution, but turning it into a series of reports and responsibilities made it too theoretical and drove it away from the practical. It became a spreadsheet and a do-out, rather than a learned and practiced skill.
Ueland offered a personal example from when he worked at the State Department during President Donald Trump's first term. He says he went to that initial meeting of the Enterprise Risk Management Council where they talked about, again, this theoretical risk challenges, but he believes they ignored the practical steps to lower risk. He says those council meetings really never changed over time or evolved. The members had the same conversations over and over again. He says having ERM in its own section in the circular leads to a trap of compliance instead of action.
What does this update to the circular, the removal of the prescriptive ERM framework, really mean? Let me be clear and level set. It does not mean that managing risk for the enterprise is no longer important, nor does it mean that the tools and skills to manage enterprise risk are no longer needed. What it does mean is that now leaders have the opportunity to conduct risk management without the restrictions of burdensome process. Now they have the opportunity to customize how they implement an enterprise risk system that works with their approach to managing their organization and aligned to its culture. Risk management is no longer the responsibility of a single council or a single position. It's no longer someone else's responsibility because it isn't in my job title, something I've heard said more than once. Risk management is now the responsibility of every council, of every position. It should be ingrained into every agency's culture and integrated into every decision at every level.
Jason, that seems to leave open the window of what exactly agencies should do to implement ERM if it's not going to be explicitly written into 123.
Well, first of all, as you heard Ueland say, ERM is not going away. The administration still believes in its concepts, its use, its ideas. But he says risk management is about understanding risk, of course, aligning what's necessary to reduce risk with an enterprise strategy, and managing that risk in a way that strengthens decision-making and drives mission success. Ueland says leaders must champion risk management as a strategic tool, not as a bureaucratic requirement done well.
Done well, it is embedded into planning cycles, budget formulation, and data-driven performance reviews. And it must be supported by reliable data, clear governance structures, and continuous learning. Risk management is not about eliminating risk. It is about managing it intelligently. It enables organizations to navigate uncertainty, seize opportunities, and achieve objectives with greater confidence and higher effectiveness. Integrating risk management with internal management routines for driving results and organizational performance is essential to building a modern, high-performing.
Now, Ueland says ERM also remains a key piece of the budget process under Circular A11. So again, OMB is not abandoning this concept in any way. Another concern that Ueland highlighted was about splitting ERM out as its own section in A123, was that these concepts, enterprise risk management concepts, were seen as a separate thing to do, not, as you heard him just say, an integrated concept that OMB believes it really should be.
Our role as leaders in government is to see problems early, understand their implications and trade-offs, find ways to navigate and mitigate this uncertainty's impact to mission, delivery, and succeed. That isn't a secondary function. It's central to mission success. When it comes to risk management as a leader, it's a strategic advice multiplier. It enables decisions. It guides execution. Done well, it improves decision-making, reduces surprises, enhances performance, and delivers results. In the end, everyone empowered as an enterprise risk manager means an enterprise less at risk every single day.
Jason, there was a lot of celebrating when ERM got added into 123. What's the reaction now that it's being taken out?
I think there's a lot of disappointment, a lot of concerns. You know, as you mentioned, ERM first appeared in A123 in 2016 because of some of the exact reasons Ueland was highlighting. The need to integrate risks across multiple mission areas, whether it's back office operations like HR and cybersecurity, or across mission areas that now share data and rely on one another to find success. Tom Brandt is a former chief risk officer at the IRS and the Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board. He's now retired. He says it seems like Ueland had a bad experience at state, and that's clouding his view of enterprise risk management. Brent says over the last 18 years of Affirm summits, they've heard dozens of examples of agencies that successfully implemented ERM, not just as a set of spreadsheets and meetings, but as a value-added method for getting to critical insights, so leaders can help improve agency performance, and by fostering a culture of transparency that enabled, to his point, of information flowing down to all levels, getting ahead of those risks, and then impacting that mission outcome. Terry also spoke with Ann Eberts. She's the CEO of AGA. She says by removing ERM as a section of A123, she feels like that's taken a big step backwards. She says ERM breaks down silos across agencies. It gives executives working on specific programs really a good reason to talk to each other, where maybe they wouldn't if they were just kind of in their own little, to her point, silos. Eberts says by creating a risk registry as an example, and then sharing that and discussing it across the agency, that ensures managers and employees see real or potential impacts more broadly, and then they can work together to resolve it because few risks are solely impacting a single program or a single office.
That's Federal News Network's executive editor, Jason Miller. Jason, thanks for joining me. It sounds like this pendulum is going to continue to swing.
Absolutely, Terry. Always my pleasure.
You can find Jason's full story at federalnewsnetwork.com.